can't tell if we're on the air or not. Okay, we've got another aftershock coming. Ready to go. I don't hear any audio. Okay. Okay. We're here in the Channel 4 newsroom, as you folks. There's no surprise. For any folks this morning, we've been hit with a major earthquake. Right now, we're trying to basically gather some more information, trying to figure out where this has been centered. I'm not sure if we can take a look around right now, but half the newsroom behind me has been disheveled. A lot of television monitors knocked off the shelves. Basically, a lot of dust kicking around here. We're trying to figure out, again, where this earthquake has been centered. It hit at about 4:34 this morning. Very sharp jolt. Right now, everybody seems to be scrambling. We're trying to figure out, again, where this was centered. I personally have a lot of concerns for my family. Hopefully, I don't know, Michelle, if you can hear this. Hopefully you don't care. Here comes another aftershock. Okay, third aftershock. This is a long one. Okay, this is still staying with us here. We're rolling back and forth left
Five
and
miles from the Cal Tech has counted over 300 victims so far. The most it's safe for us to feel, 7 has shaken our community the last 2 weeks. And now scientists are speculating there might be an unknown fault running beneath Los Angeles. A fault that...
This is still a script we're talking about, right, Wes?
Yeah, well, I sort of think of it as a nightmare in progress.
Well, in this nightmare in progress, then, does this thing have any weaknesses?
Oh, well, it can be captured sometimes.
Captured? How?
By storytellers, of all things. I mean, every so often they imagine a story good enough to sort of catch its essence, and then for a while it's held prisoner in the story.
Like the genie in the bottle.
Exactly.
This will not be a campaign of half measures.
But the problem comes when the
You will
story
accept
dies.
no outcome.
And that can happen in a lot of ways. It can get too familiar to people, or
My fellow citizens,
somebody waters it down to
the
make it
dangers to our
yourself,
country
you know, or
and the
maybe it's
world
just so upsetting to society
be
that it's
overcome.
banned outright.
We will pass through this
However
time
it
of
happens when
trouble
the story dies,
and carry on the
the youth
work
will
of
set
peace.
free.
We will defend our freedom. We will bring freedom to others. And we will prevail. May God bless our country.
As we
And all who
know,
defend
there
it.
are known knowns. There are things we know. And we also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know.
This is What Dreams May Come, Part 4, the final chapter. So Freddy did stay dead for at least 3 more years. So we're moving on to a different thing, of course. 1994 is when we got Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The reintroduction of Freddy Krueger took kind of a detour through the attempts to make the Freddy versus Jason movie, which we've already talked about on the Friday the 13th show. But going back to 1987, Paramount had been trying to get the rights to the Freddy Krueger to make a Freddy versus Jason movie. New Line wasn't interested because the Freddy movies were outgrossing the Jason movies. But by the time we get to this point, the early 90s, Paramount had given up on the Friday movies. Sean Cunningham had partnered with New Line to try to make Freddy vs. Jason happen. And they were moving in that direction in the early 90s when Wes Craven agreed to come back to do a new version of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And that suddenly took precedence, and Freddy vs. Jason was shelved for the time being. So Wes Craven hadn't been totally out of the loop. He got a story credit on part 3, and Bob Shea had often been consulting him, had often been asking him for ideas before he would usually, reject his ideas and move on with something else. They'd been in communication, at least, throughout much of these movies. But now when Craven agreed to come back to the table to write and direct, got a good deal that he finally got a cut of some residuals and even a bit of merchandising, which he was not touching that money before he signed the deal for New Nightmare. So he had good financial incentives and had an interesting idea that dates back to when they were in pre-production for part 3, when Bob Shea had originally come to Wes Craven for ideas, and he said that he wanted to do a meta movie about making a Nightmare on Elm Street movie that is haunted by Freddy Krueger, and dusted that idea off to make it into what became Wes Craven's New Nightmare in 1994. Very metafiction story about the cast and some crew members involved with, well, the original Nightmare on Elm Street making a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Heather Langenkamp is back, but now she's not playing Nancy, she's playing Heather Langenkamp. There's a lot of philosophical stuff that Wes Craven's bringing in. What I like about New Nightmare is that I think it picks up on a lot of the ideas from the first Nightmare from a different side, where if the first one is kind of about the trouble of trying to suppress these stories about dark and evil things as an attempt to protect the next generation or protect the people who did dark and evil things in the first place, New Nightmare is about the trouble with giving them a vehicle, giving them a conduit to exist. Horror movies are being looked at in that way of, is this kind of a healthy outlet, a way to help understand difficult, dark things, or are we giving people a vehicle that's going to bring dark, evil things into their lives? So it's a horror movie filmmaker who's meditating on what it means to make horror movies, I think, directly. I mean, Wes Craven is directly there talking about it in the movie. You know, I've already talked about New Nightmare because when we did our favorite horror movies of the 1990s.
The 90s? I had it as my favorite.
I had it as my favorite as well, 494, though In the Mouth of Madness gave it a run for its money. I think it works really well as a companion piece to A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it offers a heck of a lot. It's such a great love letter to its own series, which there's not many examples of that happening, where a film gets to honor itself. Not even parody itself, but like so many other films will get tributes to themselves, but it's, within the same canon. It also gets to be a little bit of a preview for Scream 2 years later, where Wes Craven delves heavily into the rules of horror cinema and the rules of his own films. There's a lot of different layers to it. Like, it's such a layered film, and I love the fact that there is an interesting bit of real life meta coincidence in the film with the earthquakes. The fact that they had written earthquakes into the screenplay, and then during production, the earthquakes actually happened. And then the shots of the earthquake damage are real for it. So there's this quite almost spooky level of self-referential meta horror going on, where Wes Craven wrote something into this screenplay that actually happened, that is a movie about him writing a screenplay about things that actually happen, so that they happen in a movie, so that things in real life can no longer happen, but will in the movie.
It's also like predicting earthquakes in Los Angeles, though.
Well, I mean, but there's still, but to that,
they went out and shot B-roll of the actual earthquake to use in the movie after it happened.
Yeah, like, to that level of effect is still pretty, like, I don't believe for a second in there actually being anything outside of it being a coincidence. Like, I am not that superstitious nor spiritual, but I do think it is fascinating and just cool.
Also, I think the earthquake thing, it kind of calls back to a line of dialogue we have in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, where I think it's Glenn, Johnny Depp's character, who says, in reference to the way people are having spooky dreams, like, maybe there's an earthquake coming up, like how animals react to when an earthquake's coming up.
Yeah.
This reference to the idea of the earthquake of being some big event that we can sense, but that we don't know about. We don't consciously know about it, but on some level, we're sensing it. And the way that the movie references these dark forces that are things that we can sense, but we don't really have the language or the way to discuss them. And that the way that movies create concepts and stories that let us interact with them, is that helping us protect ourselves? Is that giving us preparation and armor? Or is that providing a conduit? I mentioned it in the other podcast, but I love the line on the radio where she turns on the radio and you hear the line, "There might be an unknown fault running beneath Los Angeles." And this sense of the movie that, like, what if we fucked up? What if by making these movies, we've opened some door to some dark thing that we wouldn't have been in touch with if we hadn't been probing it?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of anxiety about what are we doing? Like, what are we doing making these horror movies? Yeah,
it's very true. Like, it does play on the whole idea of just as the way that America itself has been building itself. And it's like, well, this should be fine. Like, we could build these types of things here because it should be fine. And then coastal disasters happen, fault line, earthquake, hurricane disasters start happening in areas where every single person said, like, oh, it should be fine. Sure, we could have a metropolitan city the size of Detroit right on this coast here. It can sit on stilts. It should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not that it's exactly an allegory for America itself, but there's certainly a little bit of a sentiment about how have we kind of poked the bear a little bit? Have we kind of Evel Knievel'd our way into a bad situation?
Yeah. We created a creepy revenant child killer, and suddenly he's a pop culture icon rapping. Did we fuck up?
Was this a good thing? Was it a bad thing?
I like that it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but it's not really a Freddy Krueger movie. I think we're more than an hour in before Freddy Krueger really shows up. And I like that.
Well,
like it's
the intro,
He's in there right away.
the glove kills a couple people, right?
Yeah. He's in there right away.
the glove does. The disembodied glove.
Which is,
glove is
man,
Freddy
I love
too.
that scene. The scene where that glove kills people is amazing.
That counts as the entity because it's established that it's this spiritual.
They blamed it on what, electronics or...
Well, it's my favorite sloppy language joke early on in the whole film, too, right?
Mm.
Dream Dad tells Dream Son that it's state-of-the-art animaltronic bull tendons from a live Doberman. But what he's really hearing is it's animatronic.
Yeah.
But it's like it's your first clue that you're listening to a kid's version of a dream. Animaltronic bull tendons.
Yeah.
So it's like there numerous times throughout that particular film, if you listen, it's like somebody's bad interpretation of dream puns.
Mm.
REM playing when the father dies, for example.
Yeah.
State-of-the-art animaltronics, live nerve bundles from a Doberman. It's no fucking sense at all.
That was cool.
Yeah. Little moments like that, especially during dream sequences, they've set up these rubber lamps so the lamps are swaying back and forward while Heather is sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
That scene when the glove rips along the sheet next to her. Mm-hmm. You actually look, the bedside table lamps are dancing back and forward because they're made out of rubber.
Nice.
And they're being
That's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The kid sucks.
Hey,
Yeah.
he's great. He was great in Pet Sematary.
No, he's not great in anything. He sucks.
His Freddy voice is obnoxious.
Miko Hughes.
Everything about that kid sucks in this movie.
I do think the fact that it's structured around like a save the kid, protect the kid plot line is like the weakest part of the movie. Him being in traffic, being lifted up and out of traffic is not like a super
they are like the
scene for
least
me.
interesting parts for some reason. Like even though they can be the most bombastic, they're the least interesting parts.
He's the least in danger. It's all just to keep her interested.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about the kid. We care about her.
And of all things, the thing that bugged me about this movie, and not much bugged me about it, it's great. It's outstanding. There's something about the ultra-defined Freddy makeup that I
like the look of him. I thought he looked cool.
The burn marks, he's totally split apart.
But it's just muscles. like they're so like fastened into like exactly as they are. There's nothing naturalistic about it, which in and of itself is not exactly bad. But to this day, for some reason, I don't know if it's just the time that I saw it or when it was coming out, but I kept thinking about how the moldings of Batman's costume evolved. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Where it's like almost like you think like early Freddy to that point where it becomes ultra defined and almost like a caricature.
You're talking about Batman's rib cage and his muscles.
It's like all exactly
and
where
his nipples on like
the molding becomes actually more anatomically correct when it's like no one asked for that, and you get a little bit of this Freddy who it's like he has a face that is clearly not a burn victim. He is just an archetype of Freddy itself. It's not
a person who's missing pieces. It's a weird shape.
The makeup doesn't reflect what's happened to the character. The makeup is meant to reflect the collective nightmare that has been conjured, which in the cinema, in the film, I get and I totally like, but there's something distracting about it where it's like, okay, we've got the Freddy face, but we're going to add a little bit more better quality rubber to it. I don't know why I'm just bringing it up because maybe I'm the only person on earth that bitches about that, and that's my one unique point I have to offer.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. I stand by it.
I stand by you, stand by it.
Oh, I appreciate that. Cheers.
There's some solidarity here.
Yeah.
I have written down "kid sucks," and that's all I have written down.
Yeah.
Scott, what are your thoughts on New Nightmare?
I'm not done with my thoughts yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you're done with your thoughts. New
Fuck
Nightmare
that
is my
kid.
second favorite of the Nightmare movies. My ranking goes 1, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I love New Nightmare for the meta reference. Let's just do a complete rhyming sequel to the first one. The people need some sampling of the whole franchise to get an appreciation for what the seventh one is doing, but what it's doing is pretty great. Love Heather Langenkamp, so just kind of bookending the series with her playing herself.
And John Saxon's back too, right?
John was back, yeah.
Yeah,
bit,
John's
Playing
back
both
again.
himself and the character in a way.
Same with Nick Corey showing up for 30
At the
seconds
funeral.
as himself.
Right.
Showing up at the funeral.
Oh, that was a cool scene.
That was.
Yeah, very briefly. I love New Nightmare. It's got such sweet tone to it, and it has those little Hollywood movie-making moments, little references to a current affair when it talks about the deaths of the special effects artists. Like, it's very much locked in its era. To watch New Nightmare is to see what cable TV looked like in 1994.
Yes.
And, like, you'll never unsee that. The
Yep.
shoulder pads and
Mhm,
like the shitty clothing.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
No, I definitely love New Nightmare, and I love the references that it made, tying like Nightmare to Hansel and Gretel, and doing its like meta story type of analysis to it. It's Wes Craven getting a little bit over the top and making the full use of his college degrees, comparing something he wrote about a child molester to Hansel and Gretel. But no, it's my second favorite Nightmare overall for the way it ties into the first.
I find it slightly boring.
Also, Heather Langenkamp is hot. Did I mention that? Like,
She's a delightful person. She's in this interesting little pocket of, like, there's Jeanette Goldstein and Linda Hamilton and Heather, who I've had the good fortune of coming across at these conventions across Canada.
You're talking about random women with giant brown hair.
They just, they're just graying, curly haired, and they're just lovely moms. They're just lovely, nice people.
He was plugging himself there, wasn't he?
No, I'm just saying.
Will was talking about himself there,
Just
wasn't
saying
he?
there. It can only add an extra layer of watching a movie and thinking, like, you know what? That's a nice person.
Everybody give Will a big high five for going to some conventions.
Woo!
I love the movie. And I don't think, like, even if you don't watch any of the other movies, I think if you just watch the first Nightmare and New Nightmare back to back, they complement each other really beautifully.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's my number 2 as well.
What do you have right? List them off, Dylan. What do you got?
So my number 1 is the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 2 is New Nightmare. Number 3 is Nightmare 2.
And then 4, and then
yeah. Then my number 3 is 4. My number
3.
4 is 3, and then I have number 5, and then I have Freddy's Dead in last place. What about you, Sheldon?
I'm gonna slip number 7 in 4th. So I have 3, 1, 6, 7. Then
So
4.
you have it behind 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Number 6 isn't boring. I find number 7 a little boring. It's close though. I just made that up right now. I just flipped it on my paper.
All right.
And then 4, and then 2. And then 5. So I have 3, 1, 6, 7, 4, 2, 5.
And I'm kicking off with 1. No surprises there. So I get 1, then New Nightmare, then Nightmare 3, Nightmare 2, Nightmare 4, 5, 6.
All right.
You have 6 behind 5? Are you insane?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, we all have 6 behind 5 except for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
we all do.
I'm insane.
So, New Nightmare was kind of a bomb at the box office. It was a pretty pricey movie to make that did very poorly. So, kind of killed off the Freddy Krueger movies for a while. So, the next time we see Freddy Krueger is in a movie that's already been on the show.
Ooh, we see him at the very, very end of Jason 9.
I'm just going to quickly see. Scott's going to go out and rest for his class, and then I'll be right back.
See you guys. Thanks for having me.
You leaving before the 2 best movies?
That's right. I have to give a lecture tomorrow, and I'm
Lucky you. Good, but now we can just skip over these last 2 movies.
That's what you think.
Oh no.
Yes, we've covered Freddy versus Jason before, since we've done the Friday the 13th movies. So we'll do it pretty quickly, I think, for that reason.
Just sub it in.
We'll try to do it from the perspective of the Nightmare movies instead of from the perspective of the Friday movies. We are in 2003. Ronnie Yu, director, Hong Kong action horror director who came to America and did Bride of Chucky first before doing this.
That movie sucks too.
I think Will's a noted fan of Bride of Chucky.
I have a sentimental spot for it.
Script credited to Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, which was heavily rewritten apparently by an uncredited David S. Goyer. We're returning in a lot of ways, I think, to the themes of the original Nightmare on Elm Street. We're back to the parents are hiding something from the children. I think it's a little even more extreme version of the parents hiding things from their children, but actually hiding things to protect themselves, because you've got there's a wing in the hospital where there's kids in comas because they gave them too much Hypnosil. They're literally trying to suppress the dreams of the kids in this movie in an even more sinister and intense way, which brings us into the political climates. It's early George W. Bush, post 9/11 movie, and the movie invites that comparison because they notably have a portrait of George W. Bush when the cop is being we do things this way, and you don't question it. So I think we're reaching back to the original Nightmare themes, bring them to the present moment. There's this strong theme of this horrible thing has happened, but the parents want to tell the kids that it was just these are random acts of violence. They don't want them to know about this thorny history of their involvement with the murder of Fred Krueger and their involvement with suppressing the dreams of the children. The generational clash is back in a big way. I mentioned in the last episode, I didn't get many people agreeing with me, but I kind of like this movie. I think it's a pretty
you did, didn't you?
Fun movie. I did like this movie, and I still do.
How? Go into it.
I mean, I already did. I like those themes. I like those ideas. I like that it's very of its moment. The way that I'm kind of sympathetic to Nightmare on Elm Street 4 because it's a really teen culture in 1988, really MTV era, exuberant nihilist, Dutch angles, quick cuts, Max Headroom, Diet Coke. Horror movies often are a really great snapshot of a specific time, and Freddy vs. Jason, great snapshot of 2003. I kind of like the Wile E. Coyote hijinks that happen in the end with Freddy Krueger just hanging upside down and getting knocked around a construction site and stuff. It's silly, but I think the themes are kind of decent and they reach back to what the original Nightmare was doing. I enjoy it.
Good.
Sheldon, you just hate it,
I hate
right?
this movie. I hate it so much because they had so much. When you read about it now, all the scripts coming in, the treatments they had, and they picked this one.
Yeah.
This one's stupid. Doesn't make sense. Jason was never afraid of water. It's a stupid thing.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And there was too much bullshit CGI in this movie to make it fun at all.
It's inevitable, I think, that the first CGI era Freddy Krueger movie overuses CGI. Of course it would, and it does. And there's lots of bullshit CGI. Totally. Yeah.
Oh, last place. I put it last.
Last place. Okay. Will
this movie's fucking this miserable
from the perspective
movie,
of it as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie and not a Friday the 13th movie.
Oh dear. I had a hard time with this one because I put it. I recall in my Jason films, I had it above a couple of them. It was pretty low on the list, but I admit a certain fondness for the initial concept, and by that I mean the very, very, very initial idea that they no longer fear him because of the whole, within the realm of Nightmare, the rule that you are no longer affected by him if you no longer fear him or acknowledge him. I like them using that as the catalyst to bring Jason in. I thought that was a neat idea. How it was executed, a lot of bumps and bruises. But, oh boy, I am, I'm going to put it just ahead of 6. What the hell?
How?
So second last.
Second last. I might be wrong.
The movie sucks. It doesn't.
Yeah, but it's sitting amongst other movies.
Number 6 is better than this.
Sheldon, you put it in last, you said, right?
Last at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, giving my certain fondness for it, I put it ahead of 6, ahead of 5, and ahead of 3 and 4. and it'll
How?
stop short of 2.
Jesus.
So it'll be
Christ.
in number 4 position for me right now, beneath the original, New Nightmare, and Freddy's Revenge.
Number 2.
Yeah.
You're insane.
Yeah.
I
I
get
enjoy
it. You somehow like this. I mean, I like number 6, so who knows anymore?
No accounting for taste.
No kidding.
There was a pretty big budget for Freddy vs. Jason and a big publicity budget, and it made a good deal of money. It was a very popular movie, actually. But
and then,
despite that, it didn't really revive the respective franchises. Both franchises would make their most recent appearance in the same way, thanks to Platinum Dunes. Platinum Dunes is a production company founded by Michael Bay. It seems with the express purpose of just getting the IP to old, like 70s, 80s classic horror movies and remaking them, because that's basically all they did, at least at first, is they remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they remade the Amityville Horror, they remade The Hitcher, they remade Friday the 13th in 2009, I believe.
Oh, God.
And then after that, in 2010, they remade A Nightmare on Elm Street. The last time we've seen a portrayal of Freddy Krueger, the last Nightmare movie, was this Michael Bay produced Platinum Dunes Nightmare from 2010, directed by Samuel Bayer. Still the only movie he's ever made, but a very prolific music video director. Done a lot of classic music videos. He did the music video for Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh.
Credited to Wesley Strick and Eric Haserer, who did the rewrite. Eric Haserer. He's been nominated for the Oscar for writing Arrival more recently.
Well, that was fun. That was Jodie Foster, right?
No, you're thinking of Contact. This is Amy Adams.
That's true.
Kind of similar.
Rather similar.
Jackie Earle Haley, as if he hadn't been enough typecast as creeps by this point, he becomes the new Freddy Krueger. Rooney Mara's first starring role was in this movie.
Is that the mom? Is that who she is?
No, that's the main girl. That's Nancy.
Who the fuck is the mom in this movie? I recognize her.
Oh, Connie Britton. She was in American Horror Story.
Oh, that's probably why then.
Rooney Mara actually signed up to do multiple Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So
good luck with that after this movie.
Well, now that she's kind of famous, I wonder if she just like lives in fear of Michael Bay just showing up like the Godfather one of these days.
Just a spite obligation.
Yeah, I can imagine her just being like, if they come back with a sequel, in the name of Lyric Prince of Elves, Michael Bay, be gone! And then she runs at him with these green lasers and the fucking guy explodes or something.
Just booby trapping her house the way that Nancy in the original movie booby traps her house to bring Freddy back. Just in case Michael Bay shows up, she's got a sledgehammer above the door.
I forgot to bring that up. That's really dumb. Like, the movie isn't very good.
Which one? Which movie are you talking about?
Nightmare on Elm Street 1.
I mean, I think we agreed that it is.
You know what? I'm going to move it down because you just reminded me of that booby trap scene.
That is the thing that I feel like people keep forgetting about that movie. Like,
the thing is, the only
you don't
thing
remember the Home Alone shit.
I remember the dumb ending, but I forget about the booby trap. So I'm going to go 3, 6.
Okay, we're stopping it. We're cutting it short. This is over.
3, 6, 7, and then 1.
All right, we're going to do our final rankings in just a second.
Okay, I'm all mixed up.
Yeah.
Now. You tricked me with that booby trap scene.
All right, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010.
We're back on this again, eh?
We haven't even started. Okay, look, I watched this last night. First time I've ever seen it.
Me too. I watched it 2 nights ago.
Yeah, never seen it before. And honestly, this is a fantastic film. Like, really, the craft, the ideas.
How do I exit this thing?
Nah, it's awful. I fucking hate it. This thing fucking sucks. It's I might have even liked it less than I liked the Friday the 13th remake, which I hated.
I can't decide yet. Like, I'll never watch either of these again ever in my life.
Yeah, the thing that Friday the 13th had going against it was even more cruel, but. The Nightmare remake was barely even a slasher movie and barely even a dream movie. It was like just...
No, it was... for one, they rehashed...
It's like an episode of a TV show. It was...
This guy might be a killer, he might not be. Or he might be a child predator, he might not be. Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I guess that was one thing they brought in that was different, was the kind of tension about, was he actually innocent or was he not?
No, but then they ruined it by saying he actually was.
Yeah.
Like, if they didn't say it at all.
Yeah, it was a very
just
fleeting thing that he might be innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was one interesting element. The only like thematic element, that was the one thing that they brought that's like, oh, that could be interesting. But then no, it's just he's awful. It's good that they killed him. But then the one visual thing that they brought that was semi-interesting, and I had touched on it a little bit earlier about the whole idea of microsleeps and people coming in and out, and his power coming in and out. It's just the one sequence where he's walking up the hall of like a pharmacy or something.
Yeah.
And it keeps fading in and out of it being like the boiler room. That was the only...
and he's like whacking things off the shelves or something.
But
and
you
like
know,
that...
Will, I also highlighted that as the one scene that I liked in the movie.
That's the one, exactly.
And that was the one scene I liked. Yeah.
And it literally stands alone because the only other interesting things it did are carbon copies of previous Nightmare shots.
And they weren't even as good. They were worse.
No.
Somehow.
No, they were just unnecessary reshots.
The CGI they used was terrible.
They used CGI on his face.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a lot of shots where you can tell they put a CGI filter on his face. He's not even wearing a mask. He has like a not super convincing CGI filter on his face.
Yeah.
This movie sucks. Yeah. I don't know. Nothing. It's going last on my list for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's going last on my list. It's the same with Friday. It's just like, even if some of these movies I think are bad, this is a movie that like is barely a movie. Like it feels like just a product that was made. You know, it's an easy way to make money for Michael Bay and friends. And you feel that watching the movie. I do anyways. It's something that was assembled. It doesn't even have the fun of being like number 4, where they're like contending with a writer's strike and trying to throw shit together.
Yeah.
And you still actually have like creative people at the start of their career with very mixed results, just like frantically throwing shit together. And you get something that still feels like a movie, like a weird movie, probably a bad movie.
Yeah, like
but
they at least tried.
It feels like a movie, where this just feels like a product.
And it's a shame because
it offers nothing.
There's some truly wasted talent in it, but who cares? Like there's so many forgettable characters in it. A lot of the characters look like each other, mostly in the guys, but like, I mean, whatever his face is playing Freddy, it's a shame because, I mean...
he's a really good actor.
He's clearly a very talented guy, but he's quite stained now. He's the shit Freddy.
Yeah.
Shit Freddy.
All right.
Yeah, last.
Yep, dead last.
Let's, should we revise our lists? Sure. Just to recap? Okay, Sheldon, go first.
Okay, 3.
Number 1 is 3, Dream Warriors.
Yep. And then I will go 6.
All right, Freddy's Dead.
Yep. And then 1.
The 1 and 3rd poll, okay.
I think so. And then 7.
All right.
And then 4.
The Dream Master in 5th position.
4, 5, 2. I'm going to flip those two because number 5 has a tiny bit of nostalgia for me where I can watch and have fun. Number 2 just has nothing for me.
Okay, 7th position is Nightmare 2. And then
Freddy vs. Jason. And then the shit remake.
Okay. All right. So my list is number 1, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 2, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Number 3, Nightmare 2, Freddy's Revenge. Number 4, Freddy vs. Jason. Give it a chance. It's a good movie. Number 5, is this right? Yeah. I have number 4, The Dream Master. Number 6, I have number 3, Dream Warriors.
I don't know how can you not like that? You're the worst.
So I guess 7 is part 5, The Dream Child.
Mm-hmm.
8 is then Freddy's Dead, being part 6, and 9 is the remake in last place.
William still here?
I am, yes.
Good.
All right, so recap time.
Well, I could do Scott's because I know he had said it, but I'll say it again for him.
Let's recap his list.
For Scott, it's a rather simple order. 1, 7, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Freddy vs. Jason, the remake that he doesn't wish to acknowledge and refuse to talk about.
All right, so
I wish I could do that.
In order, except for New Nightmare
shot
is
its way up to number 2. For me, I'm going to go with Nightmare 1, Freddy Begins, New Nightmare as number 2. Then I've got Nightmare 2 sitting at the next spot. Actually, no, wait, I correct that. Let me start over. I didn't say all that.
I wrote down what you have. I know exactly. You made a mistake there.
Yeah, I did. Okay. So,
number 3 had 3.
Number 1, I've got Nightmare 1. Number 2, I've got New Nightmare. For number 3, I have number 3.
Yeah.
The Dream Warriors. Then at number 4, I have Nightmare 2, Freddy Resurrection. Then I'll have Nightmare 4, Nightmare 5. Then I've snuck in Freddy vs. Jason to spice it up a little. Then Nightmare 6. And then even below the bottom, like we've already reached the bottom of the barrel, but under the barrel where there's those little pillbug crustaceans and centipedes.
Where the Halloween sit.
And a bunch of shit lying in there.
Rob Zombie's movies all
is
sit.
the remake.
Yep.
Yeah. Right at the bottom.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. We've been given a lot of reasons to not revisit a lot of remakes in horror history.
There's a lot of good remakes. There's just these big ones. They can't do it.
I could think of a couple.
The wave of remakes that were in like the 2000s was a pretty grim wave of remakes.
Awful.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Black Christmas. They remade it like 10 times.
Yeah, I was going to say which one. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Many medieval horrors and Black Christmas and Halloween's and
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead and.
All right. Well, this is the last Mind Over Splatter. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to do this was to have one that's like officially the last. It's been a blast. I've loved doing this, and thank you guys so much for
thank you
doing
for
it with me.
This has been an exciting journey.
Well, and thanks to everybody who's been listening to us. I really appreciate it. Everybody who's made a comment or reached out or shared a link. I appreciate it. It's been a fun time for this little project that started in quarantine. I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Sheldon's like, it's been okay, I guess.
Well, let's.
I've watched so many bad movies since it started.
And so many good ones, right?
Yeah, ones I knew were good.
You haven't discovered anything as a result of doing the show?
No, not by YouTube.
I feel like I felt.
You might have.
I had to watch 4 Purges. Worst experience of my life.
You still haven't seen the 5th one?
What?
Ah, it's good, man.
There's not another one, is there?
Yeah, no, it's been a wild ride, and I don't know. I like to say I don't think it's us saying goodbye. Let's just say it's ta-ta for now. Who knows what Mind Over Splatter might come in the future?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
I'm not shutting the door forever, but yeah.
Yeah, leave it ajar.
Like in The Irishman, just leave it a crack open.
Sure. Yeah, we'll come back and I'll be 75 and you'll plaster my 25-year-old face on me and you can see me try to beat up a guy by only kicking 3 inches away from me.
All right. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Sheldon.
Cheers.
Thanks, Scott, who's surely sleeping it off somewhere.
He's somewhere in the streets.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Until next time, keep looking behind you.
Keep looking behind you.
Have a good night.
The whole story to bring these 2 killers together is there's better ideas. As I'll state right now is my idea. Here's my treatment.
All right.
Which was edited out in the last one. And now I'll say it now.
Good luck getting the final cut. Let's
You piece of shit. Listen, Heather Langenkamp is still alive. Robert Englund is still alive. Okay, so